Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into what feels like a courtroom drama from over 2,000 years ago, right out of Matthew chapter 27. We're going to zoom in on verses 19 through 26, where a powerful leader finds himself on trial just as much as the prisoner standing before him.
And this whole passage really forces us to wrestle with a huge question. What happens when someone in power has to pick between doing what's right and doing what's politically safe? We're about to see the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, face that exact choice, and his decision would, quite literally, change the world. Okay, let's get into it.
So, verse 19 kicks things off. Picture this. Pilate is sitting on the judgment seat. This is the ultimate symbol of Roman law and order. And right in the middle of all this public spectacle, he gets this private, urgent message that cuts through everything.
And get this, the message is from his own wife. Her plea is desperate and it's personal. She's had some kind of terrifying dream about Jesus, who she calls a just man, and she's basically begging her husband, stay out of this, don't touch this case.
Now, to really feel the weight of this, you have to understand the Roman mindset. For a leader like Pilate, a dream wasn't just, a bad dream. It could be an omen, a direct warning from the gods. So this just dumps a whole layer of supernatural fear on top of an already explosive political situation.
So while Pilate is over here having this crisis of conscience, wrestling with this divine warning, verse 20 shows us that other people are making moves. The chief priests and elders, they're out there in the crowd, actively working them, whipping them into a frenzy to demand one very specific outcome.
This is when Pilate offers the crowd a choice, and the symbolism here is just staggering. They can free Jesus, the guy his own wife just called just, or they can free Barabbas, a known insurrectionist, a murderer. And here's the unbelievable irony. The name Barabbas literally means son of the father. So you've got this choice between two very, very different sons.
So in verse 21, he poses the question to the crowd. This is his political escape hatch. He clearly thinks Jesus is innocent, and he's betting that the crowd will obviously choose the peaceful teacher over the violent criminal. Problem solved, right?
Well, that plan just completely blows up in his face. The priest's persuasion worked. The crowd's choice is instant, it's decisive, and it's shocking. They scream for Barabbas.
You can almost feel Pilate's disbelief. In verse 22, he pushes them again. Okay, so what do you want me to do with Jesus? And their answer just escalates into pure brutality. They demand crucifixion, the absolute worst, most degrading form of execution Rome had.
He tries one last time. In verse 23, he makes a final appeal to reason, pleading, why? What has he even done wrong? But it's totally useless. The logic is gone. The roar of the mob just drowns everything out.
And that brings us to the climax of this whole trial. Pilate sees it plain as day. He has lost control. A riot's about to break out, and for him, keeping order and saving his own career now trumps everything, including justice.
He's completely trapped. On one side, he's got the priests who are basically blackmailing him. They could report him to Caesar. On the other, he has his own conviction that Jesus is innocent. So what does he do? He resorts to a big, public piece of theater.
In verse 24, he does something incredibly dramatic. He calls for a bowl of water, and right there in front of everybody, he washes his hands. He's making a public declaration, trying to legally and morally absolve himself. He's saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. This is on you.
But what happens next? Man, this might be the most haunting line in the entire story. In verse 25, the people respond. They willingly take the burden that Pilate is trying to cast off, and they shout back with words that carry this awful prophetic weight.
And that cry has a terrifying echo in history. Just one generation later, in the year 70 AD, the Roman army would come and completely destroy the city of Jerusalem. It's a chilling moment where their own words seem to tragically predict the fate of their own children.
So with the responsibilities supposedly shifted and the crowd's demand made crystal clear, Pilate moves on to the final verdict in verse 26. He's about to seal the fates of both prisoners.
And verse 26 just lays it all out in three quick, brutal actions. First, Barabbas, the guilty one, is set free. Second, Jesus, the innocent one, is scourged, a horrific beating. And third, he is delivered to be crucified. The great exchange, the great injustice is complete.
So, what are we left with? We have this story of a leader who knew what was right, but he chose what was easy.
He buckled under the political pressure. Pilate tried to wash his hands of the decision, but history has never washed his name from the story, leaving all of us with a question that feels just as urgent today as it was then. What is the real cost of choosing politics over your own conscience?